So in my last video, I talked briefly about triggers and how their shield values have increased, and I didn't really talk too much about guarding, which I kind of feel like I should have, because that's more along the lines of why the baseline power of your Vanguard somewhat mattered a bit more, because you could easily guard your opponent's attacks easier if your base power Vanguard was higher than your opponent's. But first, before we get into that, I actually want to talk very briefly about front triggers, because I got slightly confused about these and how they work. Initially, because of past triggers, like, a critical trigger, for example, now we will give 10,000 power to a unit and then give the critical effect to a unit. So when I saw the front trigger, I thought, so the way that works, is it basically you give something 10 and then the front row then get 10? Is that how it works? Like, so does one of your units get like a 20k buff? Because that seems pretty ridiculous. But you guys thankfully corrected me on that and said that it's not like that at all. You just get 10 on the front row and that's it. And I'm very happy about that, because I was a little bit hesitant about, how it worked exactly, but just giving 10k to the front row, that's cool. It means that the power that you possibly would give to your Vanguard, your rear guards can benefit from it as well. But then that segues into the most recent news we found out, which is front triggers are going to be Excel only, which is very interesting, because my initial thoughts was, okay, well, if Excel decks get the utility of front triggers, does that mean that the other imaginary gift clans with Protect and also Force, will they get different triggers as well? It's very interesting. I mean, I kind of feel like they would have announced that already if we were getting new triggers for the other imaginary gifts, but it's very obscure and it does make me think about it. But I suppose it's a very cool way of giving clan identity back to the clans in Vanguard, with the G series especially. A lot of the decks got to the point to where they could just do a whole bunch of things and somewhat lost the core aspect to them of what they were about. They just did it to the next level, of course. So bringing things back here, it does make me wonder if they're going to bring clan identity to the clans by giving them a separate trigger for each gift that we have. Of course, clans will be categorized into the same gift. Like, we already know that the gifts are shared across multiple clans, but it does make me wonder, are we going to get triggers to go with them as well? So we'll just have to wait on this to see what happens. But we'll move into our main topic, which is about triggers. So, of course, like I said before, the criticals have 15,000 shield, draws have 5,000, and heals have 20,000. So I've already put my point across to this, that I really like the fact that they've made the different triggers have a varied amount of shield between them. So some will be better than others, but then it comes down to your personal choice about what triggers you want to play and what's best for you. So we still don't know what the front trigger shield values are going to be, because we still haven't seen any yet. But because they're going to be XL only, I don't want this to be categorized just to one type of imaginary gift. But we do need to talk a little bit about the Force imaginary gift, because it does come into mind when, your Vanguard attacks, because you got to imagine we are going back to twin drive days. So one to pass and two to pass are going to be quite relevant to your guarding potential. But what I will say about front triggers is that they're quite promising, because not only is it quite aggressive to give a Vanguard and your rear guards 10k, but on a defensive play, it gives your rear guards an extra buff, so that it makes your Vanguard the less likely target for your opponent to hit. Because if you're a deck, an Excel deck, that can use these front triggers, your opponent's going to want to attack your rear guards first, because if your Vanguard is going to get damaged and you get a front trigger out of it, your rear guards get a 10k buff, which means they're going to be harder to hit. So it does make me think that these decks, primarily in Excel, are going to be more like, the rear guard centric decks, where their rear guards matter a lot. So we'll just have to see on that. But also, I do want to mention that it is actually correct that grade 2s and 1s have their shield increase as well. I wasn't exactly too sure on this, but I did find out that they are, and you guys obviously told me as well. So thank you for that. But yeah, it has been seen that some grade 2s have the 10k shield. I think I saw a Galatine unit with a 10k shield, but the other 2 units that were in grade 2 didn't. So it seems like the vanilla one did, but the ones with abilities didn't. But it's interesting though, because the grade 1s that I saw, all of them had a 10k shield, and even the ones that have an ability with them and not just the vanilla one, those were all 10k. So that's an interesting thing to mention there. Now, when it comes to attacking and guarding, we need to slightly mention something about the Forerunner, because it has been seen that in the start decks particularly, we do have the 6k base starter, which doesn't have a Forerunner ability. But instead, they have given these abilities of when you ride it, you get to draw a card. So at least you get to replace the starter with a draw. So that's kind of cool. But I can only imagine that we will get a grade 0 starter with a 5k base probably, because, with having a 13k base Vanguard, 6 seems a bit unnecessary, so a 5 would be more simple. And also, I think all the triggers have 5k base power anyway, so yeah. Hypothetically, we'll say that the basic Forerunner is going to have a 5k power baseline to boost your Vanguard. So your Vanguard will be attacking for an 18,000 power. So we'll go into some numbers here, but we'll just have to see how this plays out, because we're just, guessing at the minute. But as more stuff comes out, we'll then talk about it, okay? Okay, so I've got a couple of test examples here. And they actually quite scared me to begin with, but it's just a matter of knowing your numbers, basically. So we're going to start quite simple. So let's say your opponent boosts their Vanguard, so the 5k on a 13 is going to be 18,000 power, and they're attacking your 13k base. So a 5k shield won't do anything, because that'll pump you up to 18, but of course since your power's equal, they'll still hit you. So in order to make this a 1 to pass, you'll need a 15,000 shield, because that'll pump you up to 28k. Now this is 1 to pass because obviously triggers give 10k power now, which means a 1 trigger will pump them up to 28,000, which will then allow them to hit you. But you're probably thinking, alright, I don't want to make it a 1 to pass, I want to make it a 2 to pass. So for a 2 to pass, you're going to need a 20,000 shield, which, hey, the heal trigger gives you. So heals are definitely going to have some value to them when it comes to baseline, 18k on a 13k. Because this will make it so that you become a 33k Vanguard, and they'll need at least 2 triggers, one for 28, and then another one to then get over your 33 so that they can hit you. So that's very baseline, 5k Forerunner on a 13k base Vanguard. So that's that. Now, like I said before, we do need to talk about the Force gift, because this is the only gift that actually powers your Vanguard up. So the Force gift gives you a gift which allows you to give a Vanguard or a Rearguard circle 10k power. Now, you will get 20k instead if you have 2 gifts on the field. So this will get a bit scary, but bear with me. So let's say they boost the Vanguard for 5k, so they're at 18, but they have the gift on the Vanguard. So their Vanguard's going to be attacking you for 28,000. So on your 13k base, a 15k shield won't do anything, because you'll become 28. So you'll need at least a 20k shield for a 1 to pass. Okay, so what about a 2 to pass? Now, the next one up would be 25k, but unfortunately, that doesn't do anything. It does exactly what 20k does, which is a 1 to pass, because that'll pump you up to a 38k Vanguard. And remember, they're on 28, so then all they need is 1 trigger to get a 10k boost, and then they can hit you. So the next one up is 30k shield. So 30k from a 28 on a 13k base is a 2 to pass. So you can only imagine what 20k power is going to feel like. 38,000 from a Force gift Vanguard is going to hurt. So at this point, you're probably going to be sacrificing more than 2 cards, because you can actually meet 20k and 30k pretty easily. 20k you can get from a heal trigger, or you can get it from a crit with a draw. 30k shield you could get from a crit trigger. Well, 2 crit triggers, because, you know, 2 15s is 30. But yeah, you will get to points to where if you want to completely nullify an attack, you will, you know, no question of a doubt, have to use a perfect guard at some point, because the power is going to get so high that you're going to have to start sacrificing a ton of shield in your hand to block these attacks. But this is just me talking about triggers. Bear in mind that your grade 2s and 1s will have 10k shields with them as well, which will definitely come in handy. You know, thank Bushiroad for giving us that slight shield increase to these grade 1s and 2s, because in the overall scheme of things, that will definitely help out a lot when it comes to guarding. So yeah, it is literally just going to be basically a numbers game, which is, you know, what Vanguard's always been, but it's just going to be more simplified. But you're just going to have to wrap your brain around the new numbers and just get used to how much shield you need to make something for a 1 to pass, 2 to pass, or a 0 to pass, you know, a no pass, or just PG the thing and not worry about it. But your PGs are definitely going to have a lot of value to them, especially in the later stages of the game, where your opponent will have either more gifts at their disposal, or they just have more power in general to attack you with. You're definitely going to have to keep track of how much you can guard with, and just try use as least amount of resources as possible when guarding, so that you don't diminish your card advantage compared to your opponent. So yeah, we'll just have to see about that. But yeah, that is the video, guys. So a bit of a conversation about the triggers. The front trigger obviously getting put into the XL only imaginary gift, so that is interesting. You know, tell me what you think. Do you think the other gifts will also get their own triggers? But yeah, I don't know. I mean, they could, but I kind of feel as though they would have announced that already if they were. So we'll just have to see. Until we hear anything about it, we'll just have to, you know, take it as the news gets given to us. So yeah. So thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give the video a thumbs up, and yeah, look forward to some more videos on the channel, because I do have some in mind, and yeah, I've got a lot of video ideas that I do want to talk about. So thank you guys for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.